Go on.
You can do it.
Welcome to Bragging Rights, episode 17, season 2. Sponsored by Comscaf and recorded at that green screen thing behind us that looks like Tribal.
Fake Tribal.
Yeah, fake Tribal again today. Dean's bedroom.
Tribal, not quite tribal.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. It looks similar.
Looks green.
I think we do all right considering.
It's not bad, is it?
Yeah. Oh well.
The beer's not as good here.
The beer's it looks really clear, doesn't
It's
it?
watered down
It's
a
a
bit.
bit flat.
Why have we got bottles of water anyway?
Guinness Zero.
Why have we got bottles of water, Dean?
Because it's been a warm day, we need to keep hydrated.
Okay.
Keep refreshed, guys.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I can't. It's annoying. Yeah, we had a good week.
Yeah, I've had a fantastic week. What about you?
It's been all right. Can't complain.
No.
Why not?
No.
We'll get into it, won't we?
Just no.
Just rugby.
Ruined my weekend. Yeah.
80 minutes has spoiled a good 172 hours of the week, or however many it is.
I think it's more than 60.
I think in their case, 20 seconds ruined.
Well, yeah, and the fact it was somebody...
That didn't bother me as much as I
not.
thought you'd think it would. No. We'll get into the old game
Yeah,
later on,
yeah.
won't we? Because
That's
we're
why
not
I
going
didn't-
first again.
Think your details away, so...
All right.
We off?
As Dean said, yeah, we're not going first, so crack on.
Oh, how come?
Get on with it.
Okay. Yes, Dad. So yeah, perfect conditions I thought on Saturday evening even. Sat in that north stand was horrendous. I could not see a thing for that full first half. I don't know what it was like for you in the east because it had been directly onto you, but...
Just one of them where sunglasses and a cap wouldn't have been enough. I mean, I had sunglasses on.
And a balaclava.
Yeah,
probably.
everyone was just stood doing that, hands up covering. And did you see what Rovers put online?
I did, I was just going to mention
Go
that.
on.
Yeah, that was funny. So there's a photo of the crowd, I'm assuming it's in the east stand, and they're all stood like that watching the game. And Rovers posted it and then put, "We sell caps, which I thought was pretty clever.
That's
And
quite
just,
good,
just
yeah,
a link to the shop that took you direct to like the
hats
accessories and
caps
headwear
stuff.
section. I was like,
Which
good.
I thought
Yeah,
was
well
I thought
played.
Good work.
That was pretty clever. So, but yeah, so the game wasn't brilliant in overall, was it? But you're all right there.
I just get real peed off when they attach the lids.
Clip them on. Anyways, yeah, I think the result in the end was a result probably 99% of the rugby world was expecting. But how we got there, as you spoke to me about earlier on in the day when you messaged me this morning, was, yeah, it probably wasn't as expected.
Completely unexpected the way we got the result. I think in the end, just passing your eyes over the scoreline, most people just go, yeah, sounds about right, and move on. Not only does it completely discredit Huddersfield, who are an improved side, them with Clune back at 7 is like a different team. It would be remarkable to see in a different sort of universe how they'd have gone this year with him in every game. But also discredits the effort they put in a very hot day, really tough conditions, really in regards to the opposite of what you normally get with rugby league sometimes, where it's windy coming up in the east, in the east of Hull, coming off the dock, so it's rainy and incredibly warm. They played well, for a big portion of the game, but also they were coming off a week's break. So they're fully fit, they're raring to go. They had a couple of players back, and he was obviously up for it and gave us, as we're going to discuss, a bit of a game. But yeah, if you were just to look at the scoreline and you haven't really tuned into the highlights or anything, you'd go, yeah, that's about right. Top of the league, beats bottom of the league, big score, move on. And that is just not what happened.
Yeah. You spoke about them being well rested there, and that brings me on to the first point that I've got written down was resting Sue and Peta Hiku. So Sue, obviously, is a forward. It's been tough going in recent weeks. We've had some big fixtures with the Challenge Cup final, a couple of derbies, a Wigan game and whatnot. And obviously, as the weather's been getting warmer, yeah, you can argue with the professional athletes. They should be able to do that. But when you can rest them, why not rest them? Whereas Peta Hiku has played 46 consecutive matches before this weekend, which I think that ends a rest.
As well, looking back on the game, it wasn't the missing of Sue and Hiku that led the game to turn out the way it did. It would if say we bombed loads of tries down one edge and we had some really poor centre play, you could say we didn't play better. If the forwards were getting dominated because you'd rested one or two forwards or even just Sue, but that isn't the story of the game. So the reality is, I think it's just again Peter's making good decisions on resting people and rotating our squad at the right time.
Do you think he's going to do that for the next couple of weeks as well? He'll pull maybe 2 more out next week, and the game before the cup final, he'll pull a couple more out then, just to give everyone a breather, because you haven't really had a rest, have you? It's been continuous from the start of the season, so it might be good, like player management, just to pull the odd one out here and there without disadvantaging your squad by pulling a load out like you did a couple of years ago before the cup final.
When we play Wire on Friday night, I could be wrong with this, but I think we'll be the only 2 teams that haven't had a break yet, because we're the only 2 teams obviously that have not gone out the Challenge Cup and we've played every round. I'm just unsure if Warrington got a break around Vegas. I don't believe they did. But so I agree with what you're saying. I think you will see it against Saints in sort of 2 weeks' time. I wouldn't expect to see major changes. Could be wrong this Friday against Warrington, just because it's almost a precursor to the final in regards to that we're going to try some things out. We're going to try and learn something. And it doesn't make a great deal of sense to say, right, we'll play Morg at fullback to rest Broadbent when Morg can't play in the final. You kind of want to have that matchups and see where you may be weak or where you maybe need to learn something for a final. So
let's be honest, this is a league game. You're still fighting to stay at the top of the league, so you don't want to give up too much.
And as well, don't forget, if we can go to Warrington on Friday night and well beat them in a way like Wakefield beat them this weekend convincingly, what a dent in the confidence for them it is in 2 weeks' time for the final. And also a boost in our confidence to say, actually, we know how to beat these. We beat them on their turf, let alone a neutral ground. So I'm not saying there won't be changes, and we know, we'll talk about in a bit, there's going to be one enforced change to our team, but I wouldn't expect the changes that you saw this week or that you might see against Saints when we are probably trying to wrap people in cotton wool a week before Challenge Cup final.
I think sometimes that's more dangerous though, isn't it, giving them that week off, because like you just mentioned, Josh, you've got to get that fluidity, you've got to get them links going for how it's going to be on the day. So maybe Morg won't play against St Helens, maybe to put Broadbent in at fullback, possibly. But we'll see how it goes down the line. And as Susan's mentioned before, he hasn't led us wrong with any of his team selections so far, even with the decision to put Batch on the wing in the end. But so yeah, until he does wrong, then we ain't got any room for complaining, have we, really? So yeah, the first 15 minutes I thought we were pretty dominant. Huddersfield didn't have much ball, and then obviously we scored, which was a beautiful try from Budgie out wide. But I do feel, we'll get onto because there's not much else to say really, that the video referee call, I think if that gets given by the video referee, you'll see a different first half to what we saw. I think we was a bit guilty of overplaying at times. There wasn't a lack of effort or commitment there by any means, but we're just lacking that little clinical edge that we've had so many times this season. And was that because we was missing Hiku? No, probably not, because it was like on the other side where the try was scored. So I don't know.
It's a real weird one. Sorry, Jimmy.
Can you expand on what you mean by video ref call? For the
sorry,
because
yeah,
there's definitely people watching that might not have watched the first half.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Barry.
There was a video referee decision. Mikey Lewis scored a try. The referee sent it up as a try on the field, with a potential obstruction. For me, I can't remember who the runner was. I don't know if it was Batch.
I think it was Batcher
I
from
think
memory.
it was Batch. I couldn't really see, and on the replay it was from quite far out, so you couldn't really see. It wasn't in the slow motion. There was a bit blurred, anyways. So, for me, I think it's a very, very bad defensive read by Clune. He steps towards Batchelor as Batchelor goes towards the sticks. It does impede him making a tackle, but for me, it was the defender's choice, and you just felt the amount that he was looking at it. He was looking for a reason not to give it, rather than just going with the referees on field.
It shows another one of these inconsistencies we're seeing this year in refereeing, where we have got a bit of an ongoing debate between what is a poor defensive read and what is impeding the attacking player. We discussed this last week for the Challenge Cup semi-final, where there was even disagreement between us four on whether a try was a try and where we felt it wasn't a try. for me, going back on sort of that sort of whole point, this has been one of the hardest games for me to try and summarise and send Craig notes and then discuss today, because it's so weird. Really, in the last 35 minutes, we were by far and away unstoppable. We clicked in everything we did. We did get out of second gear. We was trying hard, and we really blew a team away that were absolutely shattered. That sun was blazing. It was a really tough day. They'd been defending like crazy. But what we did for the 55 minutes before that is so weird. Like, the opening 10, up until that second try was not given, it looked like we was going to play like that for the entire game. And then the moment that try wasn't given, we became guilty, in my opinion, of going far too lateral and quite frankly, just trying too hard. Every time we got close to their line, which felt like every time we got the ball in hand because we were still on top, we did something stupid, uncharacteristic mistakes, or we played the wrong choice, and I didn't want to call Mikey out at first, but then after the fourth time, when everyone in the crowd are doing it, you're right, he just didn't pass about 3 or 4 times when he's got runners with him. And yet when he did pass, which is later on in the game for Budgie's second, which comes off the back of Tanganoa absolutely monstering someone to cause a knock-on.
It's a great run by Budgie
right?
as well. To be
and then Mikey runs across, drops a perfect ball to Budgie, who's in the form of his life at the minute, who goes sprinting in to score. And you're like, I feel like we had 2 or 3 more chances like that throughout the first half, or into the second, where Mikey didn't pass the ball.
I feel like I was the catalyst for you winning. I turned it on at 57 minutes, and it was 4-0.
Thank you for your support.
And I was like, ooh.
Didn't you say he was a closet Rovers fan?
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, this might be tasty. And then it was just try. I was like, oh, I'll put the Formula 1 back on. Jesus, what?
Can you watch the Challenge Cup from start, please?
I'm not watching it.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I've got that wrote down here. I'd like to see Mikey being a bit better with his decision making. Like you said, he's taking the line on when he should maybe pass, and he's passing when he should maybe take the line on. A prime example for me was the break where he had Minchella on his inside, and he tried passing to Minchella. They knocked it down. Ultimately, it didn't matter because we scored after that. But for me, he shows and goes there. He goes over under the sticks by himself. But
I do feel as though there was an aggression and a niggle from Huddersfield that I mentioned in the game you had against them last week, that it's not so much we got sucked into it. I think our game plan to attack it was wrong. We didn't try and get involved in it and try and sort of outmatch them in that way. We tried to be too clever with the ball in hand. It was almost like when we played them at their place about 6 weeks ago, where they scored the first try from a great Flanagan break and he started showboating. Second try, sorry, started showboating. We then turned around and went, we're not having that. Let us show you how a good attacking team and a great defensive team plays. And we linked together really, really well. And we didn't do that for most of the first half. We kind of went, actually, we've got players that can give individual moments of brilliance, calling Mikey out as one of them. I'll do it on my own. And if we just stuck to the basics, I'm not saying we would have scored loads in the first half, because they was defending really well and they was giving a good game, but we would have definitely got over a couple of more times, I'd say, and the game would be more, probably a similar score maybe, but points in both halves. So it was just frustrating. And Peter's comments at the end, where he was praising us for obviously getting the nilling, he cheekily mentioned Huddersfield, beating Hull last week. I don't know if you saw that in his post-match. He's like, look, we know Huddersfield are a good side. They come out and beat FC last week, which is just nice for him to drop in. But then he praises our patience for what was going on in the game and how we managed to think through the game, work out what Huddersfield were doing and what they weren't doing, and then get to a point where we could really open up and blow them away. And not to call Peters out, because as always we say, he's never led us wrong, but I mean, probably behind closed doors, I bet he's not as pleased as he appeared in the post-match, because we was
I think that's a
disappointed
front.
him. I think so.
It's definitely a front, because it was, I've got written down, it was boring, but Huddersfield contributed to that. They come and they had the spoiling tactics, and I just think it took you a while, along with, I think you had a cup hangover. The crowd seemed to have a cup hangover, because it sounded really flat.
It was there.
And like I say, along with them, with a few spoiling tactics, it took you a while to figure it out and get into the game. And once you did get into the game, you clicked up 1 or 2 gears. Not much. It was 1 or 2 gears, but that's all that was needed to put them to bed. But at the end of the day, you got the 2 points after a cup semi-final.
I think it was you that put in the group when it happened, like, well, we've gone up 1 gear and look what we're doing.
Well, Dean mentioned it. He said, all you need to do is go up a gear and you've got this in the bag. Yeah. And then we did, and then I sort of reiterated Dean's point, so that was credit to Dean for that one.
We say this repeatedly at the minute, but we come away and we're sat here trying to analyse a game that we've won 34-0. I don't care who you're playing. We won a game 34-0. And people come away celebrating golden point, 1 point victories that they don't deserve. And no one goes back and goes, yeah, but come on. Nobody does that. Like Liam Wigan at the start of the season. Ridiculous, outrageous game, right? All people go back now and say, well, Lee got the 2 points and, oh yeah, Wigan must have been poor on the night. But no, all it is now is Lee got that win. And I'm like, maybe not trying to be super positive, but we won 34-0. Yes, we was disappointed. Did we still see the great players for 35 minutes? Maybe even more if you include the first 10 minutes? Yeah. And you only need to turn up for 45 minutes to beat a team like Huddersfield. So not trying to worry about it too much in the context of cup hangover, they had a week off, team back, the way they tried to play the game. Yeah, we made mistakes, but I'm not going to take away from back to top of the league after being knocked off briefly for 24 hours, not even that, and 34-0.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think, from my perspective then, what I want to hear about now is not only did you win 34-0, you won 34-0 after losing a player for 10 minutes.
Good segue.
So, what's your thoughts on that, Joshua?
I'm just going to put my mic down. Josh can take sense.
Yeah, I think I might do the same thing.
Well, add to that disciplinary today.
No, we'll get onto that afterwards.
In the ground and watching it back several times, watching it in full flow and in live contact, it looks bad. JWH comes flying up the line and he collects the man. Absolutely fine. I think in the stand at the time, turned to people around me and I said, I think you get 10 minutes here. And then in the sun and the screen,
called red in the stadium.
It's hard to see. And I think a lot of people went, yeah, that's a big hit. You then watch it back and I would say Jared's not at fault for going in quick. If we're going to start penalising people for going in quick, we're going to lose the sport we love. We want to see big collisions, but we want to see them legal. But he sort of jumps into the tackle a little bit, which I don't think helps the situation. But does he make an attempt to wrap? Yes. Does he collect the man high with his arms or shoulder? No. Where does the contact happen? The player, who is slightly falling, because mitigation is given for the player losing height, hits face into chest. Right? And then...
That'll be like hitting a brick wall anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it ain't going to work. And as the commentators are discussing it, the more they watch it, you can hear them change. They're going, this looks bad, this is really bad, he could be walking here, to, oh actually, I'm not sure he collects him high, to, God, does he make collision with the chest there? To, oh, I think a penalty's sufficient here. To then everybody to turn around and be like, oh, 10 minutes. Was I annoyed at 10 minutes? No. I think the collision looks bad, and I think that in we talk about slowing it down and making it look worse. In this scenario, slowing it down made it look better. So you can't have it both ways. So what we've got is a slightly reckless challenge. It wasn't particularly nasty or trying to take someone's head off. And the players made contact to one of the biggest players in Super League's chest and got injured from it. What factors came into him going off? I'm pretty certain the fact he had to go for a HIA played into that. And also the fact that he was spitting blood out of his mouth, which don't make it look good. When the reality is, he's more likely to have bit his own tongue or cheek because he smashed his face into the chest. So I'm not mad with the yellow card or with the 10 minutes that Jared got, even though I do think you could argue in some ways it's soft. In other ways, you could argue it was slightly reckless. So yellow card and a penalty to them, probably fair all round.
What are you mad with, Josh?
We've only got about 6 minutes left.
I'm incredibly mad that today at first I wasn't mad about this, to be clear to everyone, that he's gone to disciplinary today and got 15 points to take him up to a total of 16 because he only had one before this, and to get a 2-match ban. Rovers fans are going to shake this off and laugh about it and say, oh yeah, 2-week rest before Wembley, and going to pretend that it's fine, right? No, it isn't. The way the game is being reffed at the minute and the way that they're taking these high tackles and dangerous tackles is an absolute sham in the sport. We are not seeing any consistency from week to week. You've got refs coming out, head of the referees coming out and saying in Bentham and saying, we have made mistakes. For example, Salasso's red card against Leeds was not a red card. So now they're going back and addressing their own stuff. Then you've got other people that are guessing that the refs are thinking they're wrong when they do things like turn around for you guys last week and give Knight a red card, but then don't give him any points. So then you have Hull fans saying, oh, they agree that it wasn't a red. No, that isn't what they're saying.
I still think that's a red,
They're
and I
saying-
still think he should have got more points than the
But what they've
JWH.
said is red card
Send off
sufficient.
sufficient.
Right. So my question now, what I mentioned I was going to say now is, of all the bad hits and all the bad challenges we've seen in 11 rounds of Super League, including the reckless one that injured Eckersley, which only, for the Wigan game, which only carried 3 disciplinary points, right?
Grade B one,
Right.
crusher tackle.
All the ones we've seen, do you know what the 2 worst ones are that have been given the longest bans? JWH, because somebody ran into his chest, right? And the one that Cade Cust got, right? Not the sending off, the one where Innes Senior for Castleford did the exact same thing, where Cade Cust ran into him when you played Castleford at Castleford.
How many points did he get for that?
He took a
it's
2-match
quite-
ban,
yeah, 2-match ban.
and I believe it was similar points.
It happened right in front of me, and I was like, yeah, he's lost that.
You're telling me of all the things we've seen in 11 rounds and all the Challenge Cup games of this season, they're the 2 challenges that deserve players to be banned by 2 matches?
No. But then, do you know why? Because there was no HIA, it was just ruled out of the game straight away, 11-day protocol. And I think that's what's given them the points. I don't agree with it.
I don't think that should the result of an HIA, or whether a player can come back on or not, should not play a factor in the disciplinary process, in my opinion. If you've hit someone high, you've hit someone high. If you haven't, and it's an accident, like it looks in JWH's case, it don't matter if they've carried an injury or they've knocked their head. If he's headbutted JWH's chest and he can't play next week, that should not impact whether JWH gets a long ban or a short ban. The actual tackle itself should be the only deciding factor in whether he gets a ban or not.
But it feels as well as though you're not getting the rub of the green in regards to the fact that it happened in the first half. So we're seeing other teams and other players get told, oh yeah, it was a red card in the first half, it was a yellow card in the first half, so there's mitigation to bring it down. We've just rewatched, haven't we? Was it 23 minutes in, did we agree? Off 24 minutes in?
Coming up to 24.
Yeah, just coming up to 24. Yeah.
And we've lost a player for 10 minutes in a very tight, close game that we're only winning 4-0. And there's clearly enough evidence to, as he even says on the field, the player is falling, there's mitigation. Jared makes an attempt to wrap, and there is no direct head contact in a forceful way. But he's had HIA and he's spitting blood out, so it has to be a ban. And all this had to happen was for this to happen next week, and then you're seriously asking the question of, okay, go on then. Are you going to give Jared 2-match ban and miss the Challenge Cup final?
We've seen it before, haven't we, when it's leading up to the Challenge Cup where they've give lesser bans or suspended bans and things like that. So,
The whole thing is just confusing the
it's a
life out of me.
shambles, isn't it?
I
It's
just,
an absolute shambles.
you try and guess what they're going to do. You try and think, oh yeah, that looks like that, or you can compare that to that, and then they'll go totally the other way with the disciplinary, or they won't get even cited for it, and you think, but that was like that, and that was like that one, so why ain't that? And it just it is literally just confusing the life out of me.
If he's going to get 2 matches for it, then take someone's head off.
Yeah.
Like, turn around and have the Hull fans online that say, we told you at the start of the season he'll spend more time on the sidelines, right? Prove them right. Rather than having one right now, and this is why it grates me, because I'm watching that challenge and I'm thinking, in the sport I love, in a big physical encounter, and unless there's something I'm really not seeing on multiple replays, we cannot be giving people 2-match bans for collisions where the opposing player hits his head into your chest just because you're running it in with speed.
I think you're so mad because earlier in the season you called out Asiata saying he spends more time off the pitch than JWH, and now the RFL have made it right and sent it the other way.
I think people are surprised it's took 11 rounds to get to this point, but
They have, yeah. So we are out of time. We need to. I know that you want to run through. Go on.
No, I've got a couple of good points actually.
Go on, couple of good points.
So another duck egg to our collection, as we've mentioned, 0. 5 out of 14 this season. Yeah, 'cause it looks like a duck egg.
Okay.
5 out of 14 games this season, if you include the cup. Huddersfield, Oldham, Lee, and Salford twice. An aggregate score of 200-0. That's.
But if
pretty
Salford
impressive.
go bust and get kicked out the league, you're going to lose them.
They've got a full fill of fixtures to the end of the season, anyways. So
I would be careful saying that, because there's a chance that might be one of your wins this year against Salford. You wouldn't want that taken back, would you, lads?
One of your wins.
And then just a couple of quick stats here that I'd seen on the Old Daily Fail. So we've only conceded 100 points in 11 games, which is an average of 9.09 a game, which is impressive by any stretch. The nearest, so the record for the least amount of points conceded in a season was Wigan in 1998, but that was only over 23 games, and that was 9.65 per game, which means for us to stay less than 9.65, we've got 160 points to play with because we concede 260 total, which gives us 10 a game, which is pretty much what we're running at, which I think
been digging into your stats.
pretty impressive.
It just shows what we do. We try and build a team based on defence first.
Defence wins games.
That's it.
Yeah. And then the defensive record for points in a season stands with St Helens, but that was only a 17-game season through COVID. The lowest record is 319 by Warrington, which was last season. And by the looks of that, we're well on track to destroy
Warrington
that.
had the best defence last year.
Yeah, 319 points conceded.
I think that's
They
what,
haven't this
if you
year.
remember, that's what Bear just got a lot of the praise for last year when he came over, about how he'd shored up their defence as a coach, and
Second season blues.
Yeah.
So overall, not brilliant, but a win's a win.
I'll mention two
Friday.
things. I'll be 2 minutes and then we'll move on. The first one, talking about stats. Rovers, we're now 10 from 11 to open the season. It is the first time since 78-79 season, which is when we started with 12 from 14. So 2 more games in a row to win, and we'll have the most successful season opener we've ever had. In 83 and 84 and the 84 to 85 season, when we were, as it was called then, the champions of England, we didn't even start that well. We did not have a record as good as this, which is just another one to show how impressive, our start has been in comparison to every other season,
On the flip side to that, though, it also shows how quickly a season can change if we've not started well and then gone up. Could this be we've started well?
It's a long way to go.
It's a lot to do.
Absolutely.
And then
but it's a great place to be.
Just the final one, because we like to praise some players when they've done well. Across a team where there was some really hard to give them high ratings in the game, because if you only play for half a game, how can you give people more than 7s or even can't even look at 8s out of 10? Tanganoa was an absolute beast. Rightly so, the man of the match. He was literally unstoppable at times. But then also Budgie. And the reason I wanted to bring Budgie up is not just because he had such a good game, but when we were talking about Reece Martin last year and how he's kicked on, he's showing himself for potentially England quality. Peter's made the comment after the game about Budgie should be in that sort of conversation for an England winger. And in the 34 games he's now played for us, he scored 27 tries, which is a very good record for a winger. But the confidence with that he's playing and the way that he seems to have really owned that winger spot for us, he genuinely is becoming sort of surprisingly a bit of a leader in our team. You wouldn't expect it because of his off-field antics, but he's really helping, and he's also dealing with all these changes around him, different centres and moving around and working the positions. And it's nice to see that potentially, I'm not saying he will get in the England team, but he's definitely performing at that level to be in that consideration as well. And if we talk about Martin as a future England winger, and it's maybe the next 2 seasons when he comes in, you couldn't go far wrong with Budgie at the minute for me as your England winger.
We've said this before, I think, about Budgie, but we've also said about what's his face at Wigan as well, and he can't seem to get a game for
Liam Marshall.
Yeah. So we'll see at the end of the season with that one, because there's no mid-season this year, is there? But before we go on to sponsors, just want to remind people, and reminding people last week seemed to have worked, by the way. Just basically asking people to like and subscribe, whether it's on Twitter or Apple, Spotify, whatever it is you listen or watch on. If you subscribe, you will get a reminder every time we release an episode, which is great because sometimes someone who sat behind the camera doesn't always put a notice up. And yeah, just liking, commenting as well. This week we had some really good comments. We might touch a little bit on them later if we've got time. But yeah, that'd be really appreciated. But yeah, we'll go to the sponsor and then we'll talk about FC.
This week's episode is sponsored by Comscaff.
Commercial Scaffolding, or Comscaff, are a Hull-based company formed over 30 years ago.
They offer a safe and professional scaffolding service nationwide.
For services and enquiries, you can go to comscaff.co.uk or call 01482 782 181.
Yeah, there we go. I think it's done.
You know when I said you two should just be able to communicate with thumbs up and not?
Yeah.
Worried me a little bit when you did then.
You know, it's what happens when you I don't know, employ a monkey to do a person's job. Anyway, should we talk about Hull?
Do we have to?
I've sort of
just got over it.
We do have to, because
it ate that one.
Do you know? Last week. Oh no, we need to get to the whole section because it's a double pod, and I know you're in the challenge. We need to get fan. And this week, do we have to talk about our team?
No, because he's right. It did air, and obviously there's been other fixtures. Huddersfield at Magic for one that was disappointing, but the wording that Dean used there was this one. It was painful. It hurt when we walked out the stadium because we didn't deserve it. I don't think. And that's the only word I can think of to say that. I don't think we
didn't deserve the loss or didn't deserve the win.
Didn't deserve the loss. I genuinely thought that I thought we had enough to secure that. And when you're playing up against a team like Leeds, who we expect will be in and around come the end of the season, it's 2 points like that make the difference whether you might sneak the playoffs or not. So yeah, that one was painful. I left Headingley pretty pissed off. Yeah,
I woke up Saturday pissed off. I mentioned it to you guys, didn't I? I was fuming. I was fuming because I thought we bombed it. I still think we bombed it.
Did you make Leeds look good?
Yeah, we did. That result, I am totally on James's side there. Whoever won that, you could have walked away from the game and says we deserve to win that game. The first, we'll just go back to the start of the game. The first 10-15 minutes, Leeds were on top. I have no doubt about that. Leeds line defence was the speed in the defensive line was ridiculous. They sorted it into one out rugby. We couldn't get a flow going in attack. We weren't moving up. They was making what seemed like a lot more metres than us. And we now know he's okay, John Rapana, so that's good to hear. He's out for 11 days. But that injury to Rapana and that 10-minute stoppage in play seemed to help us regain our poise. At the game, I noticed Andy Lass was on the pitch constantly, passing on messages. And I think that helped us regain our poise. And from that point on, I thought I wouldn't say dominated the first half, but I say we edged the first half from that point onwards. And I would have been ecstatic with a 10-0 going into half-time. However, you look at the scoreline, and I think 10-4 was probably a fair reflection of that first half. But we're going to talk about it.
Do you know what? It was a fair reflection because I feel like they probably, with that opening 10, I think it was 10-15, however long it was, up until Rapana getting injured, I'm surprised they didn't get over the line.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we managed to hold them out. So yeah, you could say that 10-4 in the grand scheme of things would have been a fair result at half-time. But it's the manner in which they got their 4 points. That type of stuff, stupid brain farts that, Cartwright mentioned, different type of brain farts at Newcastle because we were just losing our heads. But that type of brain fart is, I don't get it. Like, we had a thing, and I know we mentioned a lot, we all played together at Lambworth. We had a call when you needed to be sensible, and it was just safety set. And why someone didn't make a call like that when they kicked off to make sure that everyone just got the ball, put it up your jumper, and see out the half. I don't. And if it was called, then why Ashworth decided to offload it 10 metres out? I just don't get it. I do not understand why anyone
on that terrace.
That
it was just utter disbelief. Like the ecstatic and euphoria. You've gone 10-0 up at Leeds. You've got a minute 20 seconds on the clock, and you're thinking, this is looking good. I fancy us not to concede more than 2 or 3 tries in the second half. We conceded 3, but I also fancied us to be able to put some points on the board in the second half. And a 10-0 lead into half time, you're thinking that's great. And then you sort of felt like we wasn't, but you sort of felt like a proper sucker punch, and that you was behind at half time, if you get what I mean. Like that last try really
felt
was.
Like
yeah,
it
was. It was a proper sucker punch of a try.
We should have been happy at half time, and I spent all of half time just stood there wondering what's going to happen now.
I'm not surprised. I think sucker punch is a great term to describe it, and describing it as well as you feel as though actually you're behind at half time, even though you wasn't. It just feels like a game changer. To give you guys some credit in what I felt watching that first half, I agree the opening 10 minutes Leeds were they wasn't dominant, but the way they were going for it, they was sort of on top of you. But I don't know what it was, I don't know how it happened, but that 10-minute play, and all the best to Jordan Rapana, we know he's doing well, but yeah, want him to recover and be back playing as soon as possible. It didn't look good, so send him all of our regards and hope he's well as soon as possible. But the way you responded and reacted as a team after that was a credit to the FC. There'd been penalties and stupid mistakes in the opening 10 minutes that you piggyback Leeds up the field, and you looked like you was going to throw a game away. Seasoned people like Hardacre all love to dog on. Stupid penalties. Burrow loves to give a penalty away, right? After that incident happened, for, let's say there was 30 exact minutes left, for 29 minutes you were the better team in that first half. You really were after that, right? It was still a battle, but you felt you had the edge, and I thought the way you've responded to one of your senior players going down injured in what looks like quite a bad way is commendable. What a great team. And then, the moment that Ashworth makes that stupid mistake, I can only imagine, did you all just feel collectively, did you get a feeling like they're going to score?
On you.
Just deflated instantly. Like this, you go into it not every now and again. You go into most games and you maybe behind a little bit. And I can only imagine what their South standards were like, stood there or sat there thinking, we need a try before half time. We need a try. Because we say it all the time, don't we? We need a try before half time. Or the opposite, we need to hold them out until half time. Because it's a mentality shift in the dressing room when you're having your team talk, when you're giving a team talk, right, let's push on. Or, right, we need to try this instead now because it's not well. You know what I mean? It can flip an half-time team talk and the way that you're thinking mentally as a team completely just by getting that late try. And that's exactly what they did. And
I feel like that sort of thing is the story of our season, though. Like, you can't question the effort and the desire and the grit of this whole team. It's there for all to see. But it's the damn right stupid errors or the daft penalties or just the brain farts that are costing us. I think I put in the group chat at half time. About being, if we was a bit smarter, we'd make the game so much simpler for ourselves. Along them lines anyway, and I felt that the Burrows penalty, the Hardacre penalties, these penalties, yes, you give away penalties at the game, but they just seemed really daft, and you just don't need to make these errors. And then along with Ashworth doing that, that's why I was more frustrated with the first half, and not just, I should have been content with a 10-4 lead, but I was frustrated, and that just amplified in the second half as well.
I think we've just raised Jimmy's frustrations, by the way. Just launched that bottle.
I was sat there listening to him thinking, shall I go full Triple H and just throw the bottle? But, no, I didn't. But so there's a lot to talk about in terms of negatives, just from that Ashworth incident. Well, from the 10 minutes and then that Ashworth incident. But like we've said, for 29-30 minutes, we were the better team in the first half, and without going too much into the plays as such, both our tries came off scrums. Two different...
They were very, very similar tries.
Yeah, very similar in the way we set up for the scrum, but also very different in the outcome, because the first one was just out, burn a pace from Price and just put him in the corner. And then the second one, you kind of expected the same, and if you listen to the commentary, he says... They're going to do the same thing here, and then it's just like...
Give it to Litton. Their defence has gone across, and then SA's got a bit of movement. We said about the finishing the first half like that, and it was a sucker punch. We did start the second half quite well. We got the first try after 4 or 5 minutes, I think it was. A bit of a fortuitous kick, shall we say. A bit of a scuff, but...
Planned it.
Yeah, okay.
But
it was a great start to the second half, and then we seemed to...
Was that the kick, Price off the post?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it was one of the commentators commenting that if that don't hit the post, it's going out.
Oh, it's going
dead.
Right?
I sent you guys a message, I think, during the game. You're so noticeably worse if Caesar isn't your last option kick. Your attack is so poor.
And our last play options are so poor. Yeah.
And that, almost you're wrong, Josh. No, that is pure luck in my opinion.
It is pure luck, and I'll tell you for why it's pure luck.
Gritty determination though to score a try, not taken away from that.
Oh, it was great to finish the try off. It was
so Price had the ball in his hand, right? And it was almost like I was looking eye to eye with him. And he kicked the ball, and you could tell that he was aiming to do a kick to the corner. And the ball just went boink. Like, if there's a camera angle where you can, if that camera in the corner has caught that, you can 100% tell by the look in his eye where he's looking that he's aiming for a dink into the corner for Barron.
Yeah.
And completely scuffs the kick. So, very fortuitous and great reaction from Hardaker to leap and get that ball. And then be able to get it out as well for Asiata.
Yeah, it was a good offload, that. Yeah. But then I thought, 16-4 up here. Great conversion from Caesar. That try before half-time doesn't seem as bad now. And then within 4 or 5 minutes, well, what it felt like, we're gifting them a try. We're gifting them to run at us 10 metres out and not moving up. And you think, why do we do this to ourselves? You move up as a line, you're hitting them 3 metres before the try line, but you're letting them run at you. Why are you letting a player run at you? What is it, 5, 6, 7 metres out from the line? You're asking for a try. You're asking to give away a try.
We've done it all season. We don't move up very well.
No.
It's almost like, and you were saying it at the game, like, we're not moving up. The only reason I can think in my head is that we've got this plan to keep this super straight defensive line and conserve energy. It's the only reason I can think as to why we consistently move up at a slow pace.
It's not. I've got my train of thought now. It's not surprising to see that we've only won the metre battle twice this season. Castleford and Catalan, I believe, the 2 games we've won the metre battle. When you haven't got a defensive line that is moving up and giving away so many metres to the other team. I think that's something that needs to change.
And your forward woes as well, because we've spoke before about using certain players maybe too much and not having the interchanges available for second rows and things like that you'd perhaps want.
So there's a couple. I'm glad you've gone on to that. There's a couple.
We ain't got interchanges for second rows because we ain't bloody got any.
Yeah. So
superstar Brad Fash was back. What about?
And he didn't play second row.
You look at. I've had a look at the Leeds tries, and I think now a few weeks ago we was getting away with players playing out of position. Hardaker playing at second row, Ashworth's playing at second row, Chamberlain the same, Briscoe at centre. These players are now getting found out, and it's through no fault really of their own. They're not playing in their natural positions. They're asked to do a job elsewhere, and coming up against quality opposition that they will get found out. So Leeds' first try, Brodie Croft pulled it, a 4-on-3 play, picked the right pass, looked a simple try on paper, but you look at the play of the ball before that, Chamberlain is, for me, too far in and left too big of a gap with Caesar. He then tries to overcompensate, reads the wrong play before the ball gets to Croft, leaves a 4-on-3. You've then got Hardaker defending the try line, 2 or 3 people in than he normally does at centre. He doesn't move up for that. Is it Holroyd's try? The second try for Leeds?
Yeah. This is the one I spotted Hardaker because he's getting a lot of praise for the effort, and it's almost that because he's out of position, he's getting extra praise, which he deserves for being out. But that's the one I spotted. It was like Hardaker's not just to blame, but he's
never going to muscle
up
against a player that.
There's the other 2, and these 2 are after Burrow went off. Now, I do agree with you about your silly penalties. I love his work rate. I love his graft. I wish he'd cut these stupid little errors out of his game now and again. The soft penalties, the little bit of grubbiness, which I do like, but not all the time.
Yeah,
there's a time and a place. Yeah, there's a time and a place for it. When he went off,
he's got it written down.
When he went off, it looked like
I don't know where anyone was.
Yeah, but for them last 2 tries, Knight looked like he was defending at second row. Now we know what happened with Knight at second row when you had that short side play in the derby. He got caught out. He gets caught out twice on the play. He moves too far up or too far in for the young Leeds wingers try, their third one. Lunt.
I've got a different take on that.
That's fine, you can go there. And then on the try,
Thanks.
the break from Handley for Leeds' try, the last one, the break down the left-hand side, he seems to jump out the line a little bit, and then that just staggers the line for me. And I don't want to jump on these players because these players are putting in a shift for us. A lot of them out of position, but we are desperately in need of either players back or new bodies in who are more natural to this position, because we are starting to get found out now, and it's going to start hurting us in the long run.
I think it's more frustrating than anything else, isn't it? Because you've just said there that your players are putting a shift in.
They are.
And the effort's there and the commitment's there, but it's just because they're not naturally belonging to that position, if you will, that they don't quite have the smarts and the know-how of how to do it. Like
it's not that the bad players, they're not bad players at all. It's not their
more
natural
frustrating
position
than anything else, because it's out of your hands and you can't do anything about it.
They've been asked to do a job there.
I think on Friday night, on Friday night, I think example for me, Briscoe had a night to forget, in my opinion. I think he was not bad, but I think it just seemed to have like a tiredness of, I can't do it in this position anymore. Like he's still got something to offer, but yeah.
What's Knight done to Briscoe?
I hate you and your stupid humour. I hate it.
What was your take on it? What?
So for the Lum try, if you look, the pass goes out. You've then got Knight and Fash that both rush what they expect to be the kicker. Why not just one of them for a start? You've got Cust that moves up at what I would think is the right pace for that sort of try. You've got two run right up. Custer's took a steady pace, and then you've got Briscoe, who in my head still thinks he's a winger because he stayed right back. So you've got 2, 1, 1. It's just a diagonal line, and then you've got Barron, who's actually where he should be, but because they then break the line, he then has to come back. In my opinion, he comes back into the line too slow. You've got Fash playing out of position, you've got Knight defending out of position. The only person in position is Cust, who is, in my opinion, the one that's defending at the right pace, in the right place. Briscoe, out of position, just looked lost, completely lost. And then you've got Barron, who is maybe that little bit of inexperience is kind of like, oh, crap, what do I do?
Yeah, and then he does the right thing eventually, but he's been hung out to dry by Briscoe, who hasn't done it on purpose. He's out of position because he's caught in two minds, and I think it all points to what you're saying, Dean. I can't disagree, and I think that's why I wanted to mention Briscoe specifically, not to bag on him, but to say he really looked a bit done on Friday night of like, get me into a position, I know what I'm doing.
I think he has all season, and he did last season. Like maybe you can have a different take on it. You're welcome. Briscoe defensively at centre, I have never trusted. I've never liked Briscoe at centre. He's clearly not a centre. I mean, when he came through at Hull, he was put in there as a centre. Yeah, he got a 3 shirt his first season, but
that soon changed.
Yeah, very, very quickly, Agar put him in a 2 shirt, and that's when he started to flourish. He is, for me, an out-and-out winger. And the way that a winger defends versus the way a centre defends is completely different. And he just gets caught out week on week.
Because he's playing out of position.
Yeah. And it's like
but our hands are tied.
Our hands are tied. Credit to him for putting in the graft. Credit to every single player in a black and white shirt this season who's put in the graft. But like you said, we need bodies in position. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting caught out defensively.
So we are at the minute 8th in attack, ranked in the league, 8th in defence, and we're the 7th in the league in the standings.
Overachieving them?
Some would say. Are we where we're supposed to be? Stats don't lie. Or I asked a question on Saturday to you guys and asked for your answer tonight. Have I a right to be annoyed that we're not higher, or am I just expecting a little bit too much now because of the start we had?
Well, for me, at the start of the season, I predicted 8th to 10th. So on that, you're at the upper end of that scale. You know, you're 8th, and 7th, with the stats you've just read out. So for me, like, you should be happy with that, especially from where you were last season. But after the start you've had, with hindsight, you've got every right to feel a little bit frustrated. I maybe won't say annoyed, but maybe frustrated at where you are now compared to where you were 6 weeks ago. Because you came out, you had a blistering start to the season, you were challenging for the top. It was only Good Friday, you could have gone top if you'd have beat us in the derby, and that's not a dig by any means. It's just if you had
wasn't it?
If you had beaten us, you'd have gone top of the league. So for me, yeah, you've got a right to feel a little bit frustrated because of the start that you've had and the slip off. Would you say? I don't like using that term because it makes it sound really drastic, but the sort of drop in form that you've had, shall we say? So yeah, for me, I'd feel a little bit frustrated from where you were to where you are now.
I know you asked us. I tried not to prepare a full manifesto that'll take me 10 minutes to get through. But I did actually find, I'll say briefly my thoughts on it, but I did actually find the rarest of things, which is a sensible comment on Facebook. And it's by a Hull FC fan, and it's on Hull FC's official page. So I'll do my bit first, and I'll get to that and see how I feel. But I pretty much agree with what Craig's saying. It's really tough to answer. On some ways, you should be expecting a little bit more, and you should be disappointed. In other ways, you do need to remind yourselves of where you thought you would be. You're probably getting very frustrated when you're not being competitive to the final whistle in some games. For example, when Agent Hawley scored against you on Friday night to finish the game, all that frustration doesn't boil down to that one try, does it? No. It boils down to stupid mistakes and not having players in the right position.
Well, like I said to you guys, it wasn't who scored it that bothered me. It was the fact that we lost it.
I mean, yeah, if you go through your team 1 to 17, and I know you're going to laugh and say, well, we haven't got 1 to 17, we've got all these players missing. But do you genuinely feel, when you look through them, that there's players in them positions that are top 4 level players in Super League, top 8? Because when I look through your team, I'm struggling to find players that I think are solid top 4 players. There are some that could do a job in a team, but we've spoke ourselves about people like Caesar, who can have really good games for you. And he hasn't been one of your players that's let you down many times this season. But he is a transition player in that position. And you've got people like Cade Custer on his day, seems to be having really good games. There's a reason he doesn't play for Wigan anymore. He is a top 6 to top 8 player, but on his day he can be top 4. So if you look through your team that way and assess it against who we've got in Super League at the minute, and then look at where you are and take out how games have finished and how close games have been, the reality is, I think you're quite close to where you should be after the start you've had. You said challenging for a playoff spot. You were only a third of the way of the season in. And let's not forget what we agreed with at the very beginning, that you don't change overnight. It's 2 to 3 cycles. It's 2 to 3 seasons. Don't get carried away just because some good results at the front end of a season. Go through the full season, learn from it, look at next off-season's recruitment and see where you come next year. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's why I would say that, yes, you're right to feel aggrieved, but a little bit pinch of salt reality sometimes. Yeah. And then this comment I wanted to mention, I thought it was really fair. So shout out to Steve Marrison. He's wrote on a public forum, so I don't think he'll mind me saying. He's a Hull FC fan. Loads of comments on there.
You might mind saying that.
Yeah,
it don't matter. That comment belongs to Facebook now.
Loads of comments on the official page. Disappointment after the loss. Loads of frustration. And he said, it's disappointing to lose by a narrow margin, but errors in sports are almost always costly given the opposition capitalises from them. That's the nature of our game. That being said, we are not shipping double-digit points anymore in the second half, and that's a huge plus from where we were just over the last few years. Now, I broke his comment away, so I won't say it all. There's some comments about praising Cartwright and the management team and so on, which was fair, but I haven't put it in. Finishes with, we're a team/club in transition where we have a board who are ambitious, they have ambition, and they have the resources to make the most of this ambition and make it as good as possible. And I thought, that's positive, it's fair, and it's realistic.
Yep.
Right?
Should get money, yeah.
That is exactly how you should feel after a 1-point loss, regardless of the circumstances. And I know we said you're not going to try and remember, Jimmy, referring back to last year, right? But we spent 10 minutes last week being questioned the finals we've been in the last 2 years, right? And there is some parallels to that. You have to remember the past and where you come from and where you're trying to go. And it's only been 11 Super League games this season for you.
We've got to remember the bigger picture. But you get caught up in the emotions and you get dragged into it. So
I was just going to say, like, just to touch on what Josh said there, is I feel like I've got a little bit carried away with the start of the season, and,
Me too.
and I'm gonna just bring myself back a little bit, and I think compared to last season, we are doing a lot better, and I feel like I've just been reminded by our friend on Facebook, by Josh, and just by Leeds, to be fair, that comparing us to last season, it's not a bad thing. It looks good, doesn't it? Look, we've won games.
It's got all squeaky now.
We did lose games, and you lot were all wrong. There were people listening and watching saying you can't compare to last season. Well, guess what? You can, and it makes me happy, so shut up.
You wouldn't have been in that game last season. You wouldn't be sat here.
Oh, God, 11 minutes in, we'd have been down.
2 or 3 tries
Rapina
down.
getting injured would have broke us, and we'd have just wallowed through the rest of the game.
So just to finish for us, and I don't want to sound like sour thing again, but
Like
that's
what?
sour.
Oh, go on. Do it.
No, that's 4 losses on the bounce now. Now, they
Sounds
say
like last season's form.
winning's a habit, losing can become a habit. Now, we've got Lee away and Catalan away. Now, I'm not going to say that we go to Lee on Thursday and it's must win. It's not. We're not at that stage yet. But we could really, really do with 2 points before the cup final break in 2 weeks. Whether that comes at Lee, I don't know. Whether that comes at Catalan, I don't know. But we could really do with, just for morale's sake more than anything, because like I say, no matter how well you're playing or how badly you're playing, winning and losing become habit. And I don't want to go into that break on the back of 6 losses, then with Cass at home afterwards. Because then that does become, if we want to be challenging in and around that playoff where we think we can be now, that does become must-win territory at that point, because you're going into that game maybe 4 or 5 points behind the playoff push if the other teams have a good run-up until that. So
I do think as well, I know the whole section's running on a bit, but we probably didn't touch on it all there. The frustrations as well with the current league position and the games you've lost, it does come from who's behind you as well, because being realistic, Huddersfield and Salford are clearly the bottom 2 clubs. Mm-hmm. Huddersfield are now finding a bit of form, we hope, and they're going to improve, but they have clearly been, quite frankly, very poor all season. And then after that, you've got a Cast team who have been fairly poor, but have nicked points here and there, and had a great win themselves yesterday, managed to turn around and yes, they beat Salford, but they actually did play some good rugby. And all of a sudden you start looking at those teams behind you and you go, they're really poor. And even the Sky pundits and the people online are saying they're poor. We don't want to be in that mix with them. You don't mind being in the mix with teams when it's competitive, but when there are teams behind you that have been getting, quite frankly, raked over the coals for a long part of this season, I'm sure that makes it feel a bit worse as well.
Does a little bit.
It does. Anyway, let's talk about what's going on at Tribal this week. So we'll start off on Thursday, 8 p.m. kickoff. If you cannot make the game, we've got Lee versus Hull. Yeah, like I say, if you can't make the game, then what are you pointing at?
Just get on with it.
You're so distracted.
No, we're not. You just...
Right, after that, you've moved him out of position now. We'll go Friday night, Warrington versus Rovers, 8 p.m. kickoff again on the big screen. And then, yeah, the only other thing, there's no event that I've been given, so it's just 15% off for members. Don't forget to bring your season pass.
No, the event will be the Ibiza thing, won't it? It's Bank Holiday Sunday.
Well, I haven't put it on.
Okay. It is that, though.
Thanks for remembering. Yeah, 15% off for members if you've got a food and drink bill. Yeah, just remember to bring your pass. Cool.
Josh wanted to go on. Yeah.
Very, very briefly, I know everyone will be sick of me talking already, but just wanted to touch on a little bit wider in Rugby League. I know we've answered some comments about not having the time to discuss other games in NRL and stuff, but trying to keep it a little bit closer to home and on the grassroots. It's just a shout out for the Rhinos Challenge that is held up at Butlins in Skegness. It was last weekend. A really big rugby festival for under 8s to under 12s, mixed boys and girls, but then there is also a massive netball component as well. There was 324 rugby teams that were there and 75 netball teams.
324 rugby.
Yeah,
wow.
All under 8 to under 12s, 75
from all over the UK as well.
Yeah,
and Wales.
Over 12,000 people. It's a massive success. I'm not quite sure how many years it's been going on now, but it seems to be growing and getting better and better. I've seen people we've played with over the years that have got kids and they're now coaching at East Ulham Dockers, and and they're taking them and they're going. And I was sort of brought more to my attention just from it's actually my wife's family, so it's Evie's cousin Nick. So shout out to him and his son Lucas, who plays for Heworth under Nines. But he'd gone out there and he wanted to share, and he was so impressed with this mixed boys and girls entire rugby extravaganza, because it really is. It's called a festival of rugby and netball, and it truly is. Apparently it's just an absolute delight to be there, and just a big credit to everyone involved in the running, everyone that coaches at that grassroots level, and how we're continuing to grow the game and have that sort of positivity on this is still the sport that we love. It's still our favourite sport in the world, and all the gripes and moans that we bring onto it, there are still kids out there that are going up to these big tournaments, these big festivals, and pretending to be Mikey Lewis or whoever they want to be. So yeah, shout out to Lucas and to Nick there, but also shout out to everybody involved.
Just quickly then, I can concur with that about it being an absolute success and a great place to be. I took my lad last year when he was at East Hull, and it was just absolutely amazing. The night time in Butlins was just full of all the different teams in there, in the club kits and club training gear and things like that. There was about 8 teams from Hull, and I think Mason played Keighley, and he played a team from St Helens, and then I think they played Castleford as well. So there's teams from all over. There were teams from us like down in Kent.
It's great for the teams from Hull, because as we know, growing up, we didn't really get to play the Yorkshire teams until we got to, is it like 13, 14 year old, when the Hull and District League, you sort of joined the Yorkshire League when you got to that age. So at that age, under 12, under 8s, under 12s, to get to play these teams like your Saddleworths and your Lee Marners and teams like that, they're good teams. They're really good teams, really well run teams. So it must help with their progression coming through as well.
I think the main bit of credit for all of this, and I know you mentioned it really briefly at the beginning, it's the Leeds Rhinos. Mm-hmm. It's their foundation does so much stuff. Like if we turn around and say like what other teams need to aim for in terms of like youth and bringing youth through is Wigan, Leeds is where your foundations need to aim at. What the Leeds Rhinos Foundation do, and it's really difficult to say this week, they're absolutely fantastic. And we saw that at half-time. How many kids were on the pitch playing at half-time?
They've been doing that for years as well, haven't they?
Pitch was which when we went there.
But I know they've been doing it for years, but how many times have you ever seen that at KC or at Craven
I'd
Park?
rather that than them try and put on some dancers at half-time, or just some half-ass event for for 2 or 3 minutes at half-time. I'd rather you set up 6 pitches on the rugby pitch and give these young kids the chance to run out on a...
Well, you'll know, like, I think it was when you were at Minehead, you played on the Boulevard.
I played on the Boulevard.
And now, as a kid...
I played on Boulevard.
I refused to play at Craven Park.
Did you?
Annoyingly for me, I never got the chance to play at Craven Park, but I did play a final at KC.
Did you?
Yeah, I played a football final at KC, rugby at the Boulevard, but never played at Craven Park.
I played at Boulevard.
I kicked 2 conversions at the KC at half-time one day.
Nice.
My big claim when I was a kid was I scored in front of the old Threepney stand, the old wooden part, because as all fans will know, about 60% of it was knocked down to put the seating part of Threepney, and then they left the old wooden part, 40% of it, for a couple of years, and then knocked that down to build the new concrete part. And the last game before that was closed, I scored in front of it, and I threw my arm up and celebrated because I was playing only quarter pitches then. And Threepney stand. In my head, I just remember the full stand going like that. When probably it was a couple of people just doing it. But yeah, that a great memory that sticks out for me.
But yeah, my Tonga hoodie, I got that from Butlins.
Yeah,
there you go.
So I just wanted to shout it out because it is massively about the kids and growing the game. It's also all the other things. It's the foundations, the trust that are doing a great job. It's about all the parents that are involved that do it, but the coaches as well, these teams that get to mingle with other coaches and, as you say, meet these teams that are coached almost to a semi-professional level from under 8s that you do get in your,
there was always a class above.
Yeah,
step up.
All them type of teams, and it's just great for everyone. And when we sometimes get a bit down, I thought, big shout out on that. That game, the game is still strong.
Yeah.
All this doom and gloom, it's still there in the heartland, and it's still there in a big part of all of England, Scotland, and Wales. So
credit to all the parents as well,
and all the Butland staff.
Yeah,
which we seem to have missed out.
It's not a cheat. It can't be a cheap weekend for all the parents. So credit to all them for supporting the kids and supporting them through their journey in rugby league.
So from Skegness to Vegas. Skeg Vegas, yeah. We have to touch on it because it was announced last week. So I had a big sigh coming from over there, so I didn't know.
Not from me.
Probably Jim. Yeah, of course it was.
I didn't even have my microphone in my hand.
It was
That's
that
how
loud.
loud the sigh was.
I didn't.
Lauren was really looking forward to that, so thank you.
I hadn't sighed.
So yeah, Vegas. What a massive, massive honour and privilege for Rovers to be representing the Super League alongside Leeds Rhinos in February next year. So, just if you think back 30 years ago, there nearly wasn't a Hull KR. There were people doing sponsored bucket walks to try and raise funds for the club to keep us alive, so to speak. And when you look at relegation, 8 years ago now, was it? Excuse me. We was dreaming. When we got into Super League, we was dreaming of Grand Finals and Challenge Cups, and then obviously 2 years ago Vegas started, or will be 2 years, about 18 months now, but that all started then, and it's like, wow, we're included. We're dining at the top table as it stands, and it's very weird. It's very odd.
It's a great but strange feeling.
But great, yeah.
There's still a lot flying around there around how this was decided and how decisions were made, and I'm led to understand that there was quite a big push from Rovers that they're willing to give up a home game to do it, which might be seen as negative by some people that can't travel. I'm led to understand that there was discussions with Saints, and Saints and Leeds apparently had a very similar concern over travelling, in that their home games bring in an extortionate amount of money. Some of the figures being thrown around were as high as £300,000 a game. It's worth them for home games that we don't want to lose. And there are other teams looking, saying, we'd like to go, maybe we'll go the next year, yourselves included. And it's that thing again about being positive. And if our club and our owners, from where we've been, where we've come from, where we are now, the amount of work and effort they've done to lobby for this and to get us to do it, it's going to be phenomenal. And
for Neil Udgell as well, who's ploughed so much money into the club over the years. There was times where fans were calling for him to go. He took us as far as he could take us, and he's gone, do you know what? I haven't. And he's stood up and he's turned him round and he's gone, this is where my vision for Rovers was.
It's nuts, in my opinion, just because we've seen it this year. We saw Wigan and Warrington go. We know they are as teams. We know all about them. We know they've been mainstays for a long time. But this really helped me with that belief of we've truly pushed up towards the top of the sport. It felt like we was pretenders 2 years ago when we made a Challenge Cup final. It felt last year like a bit of a feather dream that we played so well, finished second in the league. It felt like it could be a flash in the pan. This is just another thing that helps us feel so happy about the club we support and that our club on and off the field is going in the right direction, but really makes you feel positive for years to come that, this league isn't just about, it used to just be about Wigan, Warrington, Leeds and Saints, and everyone sort of seems to forget that only 20 years ago it was about Bradford as well. You can rise as you can fall, and this is, for me, is that sort of line in the sand.
Warrington
weren't
even in that conversation then. It was Bradford, and Warrington have sort of crawled their way into it. Well, no, crawl's the wrong word. Climbed into it.
Yeah, so, they've got into it over a few years, haven't they?
Yep.
But yeah, what a massive, massive honour. And if you've not got, well, you won't have your tickets yet because they're not on sale. But if you do, go to the Rovers website or the Leeds website and go to, ours is hullkr.co.uk/Vegas ticks, because then that way the club recoups some of the money that we're losing for it being a home game, because we're going through the official channels, whereas there will be other places you can buy them from. You're probably buying from Allegiant on the day, or from wherever.
From the NRL.
From the NRL. But if you want to give money to the club, if you don't, then don't. But if you do, then it'd be massively appreciated, because obviously we're taking a massive financial hit with it being a
Are
home
you though?
game.
I don't know the figures that are around it and things like that.
I would assume
Are you,
so.
or are you going to recoup that in more sponsorship because of the stage that it's going to be on? Or?
Possibly, but that's for down the line.
I was really
isn't
surprised
it?
to see that. I know you've just said about Leeds and Saints they was going to take a big financial hit. This might only be a once in a lifetime for each team.
Yeah.
Why would you not put your team on that? Look what it did to Wigan and Warrington. Like, as many of you know, I'm a big listener to TalkSport, and rugby league is very frequently talked about on there. Very rarely. It's all football, but for the Vegas week, you knew it was happening. Which, when you have big events in rugby league, outside of rugby league, don't know it's happening. We know it's happening, but everybody.
Adrian Durham, who does
Adrian Durham,
season all fan,
but
I believe.
Yeah, he helped write Cookie's book.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Was it helped write it or along them lines?
Yeah, he was involved.
So, but these, if you didn't know it was if it wasn't just rugby league that knew it was happening. Yeah. Every other sport knew it was happening.
We spoke about it. It was on the football. There was advertising it on Sky Sports News. There was talking about the end of Premier League matches.
When I went to Vegas last year, big billboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was September.
To answer your question, though, that was in the middle of that, because you're right, it could be once in a lifetime, and we'll need this to last for at least, 5-6 years to get every team there if we don't double up once. Some teams might not get a chance. If you don't go this year or next year and then they get rid of it, we don't know. But to answer the question on the financial front, we don't know, we might never know. But this is what the clubs are reporting they'd lose. That's probably a top line figure. How much can we, I say help the club, but want to help the club recuperate rather than just doing it because you can? We will release a new kit. They will sell out. They will sell it to people that aren't going to Vegas.
Probably merchandise and all sorts.
I'll buy multiple stuff from them, even though I normally don't buy the new kits. I tend to buy coaches' polos or wear my old 1980 shirt. But I will because I'm travelling to Vegas and I'll buy more. And then there will be events building up to it, and there will be ways around it. And
2010.
Well, yeah.
2005.
Let him talk.
So there will be ways to recuperate, I believe, and we'll see. And if we do take a small financial hit or a large one at the end of the day, presumably it's because we're going to recuperate it in the long run in growing the sport, growing our club and growing our team.
Just a question.
Go on.
You got promoted to Super League in 2006, so it's 20th year anniversary next year. You could possibly do dinners for that as well, which will recoup money in for. So these, I don't see you. I'm not a financial expert, I'm far from it, but I don't see you losing as much money as teams are like Saints and Leeds are saying they'll lose, because you can. There is ways and means to recoup that money.
Oh yeah, always. I did have one final.
Might lose a little bit, but not nowhere near them figures, I don't believe.
Yeah, that was it. That was my final point on this. Massive credit to the club as well, because they are aware that some fans won't be able to travel. Back in 2023, I don't know if you'll remember or know about it, Josh, but we was told that the price was frozen until the start of the 2026 season on season passes. They've now waived that due to it being one less home game, which some clubs wouldn't. So credit to the club for...
You're actually going to reduce your season ticket price?
No, it's going to stay the same because it was due to increase at the start of next season.
Extended it.
So they've extended it for another year.
I will be shocked if on that game day, I know it might be a strange time with being US, if we don't open Craven Street still anyways. And that way...
Yeah, because you did it for the derby,
like we've done for derbies, like we've done for finals in the past. That way we still get hundreds, potentially even 1,000 or more people through, buying food, buying drink, putting money back in. So there's ways and means around it, and I'm struggling to find a negative about this in any way, shape or form.
I don't think there is one. Yeah. Yes, some fans aren't going to be able to afford to go, and they're going to miss out. But for your club, I don't see it being a negative.
I'd sell my shoes if I had to.
I'm selling a kidney.
I can't. I've only got one. Final question: are you booked?
No, only because I'm trying to wangle it a bit different. I don't want to give my game away and what my plan is, because everyone else will follow my flight pattern and do what I want. But I'm under.
He's going to hire a canoe.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is. But I'm under the impression that if you fly like to Dublin or maybe skip on Amsterdam first, you can go through US. The embassy security there.
I know Dublin you can.
I know Dublin you certainly can. I know one person who has actually done this. So whilst I firm up numbers from my side who are coming, I'm now eyeing up Dublin, night in Dublin.
I like it.
Then to Vegas. And then when I come back, maybe another night in Dublin before I come home, but we'll see.
I hope my wife don't listen to this and pick up on his plans. She loves Dublin, and if we go in 2027, she'll go, oh, you remember how Josh said he was going? Yeah. But for our point of view, you're a little bit disappointed, aren't you?
I'm pissed off.
I'm not.
This swear jar's going right up in it.
So, like, not in a, like, genuinely, and I do genuinely mean this, I think Rovers going is fantastic, especially for you. And I think it is just in terms of showing other teams. I mean, you've done it already over the last couple of seasons, showing other teams what you can actually achieve. Because, like you said, you were relegated 8 years ago. Like, you know, where are you now? You're joint top, you know, second, wherever you want to call it, in terms of like teams overall.
Right, I'd probably say
top.
Yeah, right now. It goes to show where you can be. My understanding is that season after is going to be Hull versus Saints, and I'm just not that excited anymore.
You wanted a derby, didn't you?
I wanted a derby in Vegas.
That'd have been unreal.
That for me would have been. I don't think there was a possibility of there ever being a bigger fixture in Super League. I stand by the fact that I think the Old Derby is the biggest fixture in Super League. I think it's the best derby in Super League. Why not?
I have a different view, slightly, quite a bit actually. The main one, I'm 40 in 2027 in February. So for me, celebrating my 40th in Vegas, yeah.
No, I do get that.
But if there was any other team other than Rovers I'd want to play, it would be Saints. I feel we have like a connection with Saints, the Steve Prescott connection. Yeah. So any other team I would have chose, it would have been the next team would have been Saints. And now if we do, I can go to Vegas, and if we do end up losing that fixture, it won't ruin my trip. It would just be another loss. And you take it on the chin.
So, yeah. If you lose a
derby, it wouldn't ruin the trip. That's wrong to say, but it would stink for a couple of days.
No, it'd ruin the trip.
No, but it's one of them that you're probably never going to get the chance to recuperate on. You know, like we'll go on. Right, we'll go on about beating you at Wembley.
You go on about beating us at Vegas.
You're never going to get the chance here to be, unless the sport grew exponentially and we really hit the American market and it became a regular thing like the NFL has, where you're getting 3-4 games a year in London in the NFL. You
get a magic round out there.
Yeah, and then maybe in 10 years it's another derby and you've got a chance to that. But we play one game somewhere random like that. The chance of you getting a chance either way, because we could lose that fixture, to recuperate that loss and get one back, so slim.
Yeah,
I think it's safer for us as well. I think we'll be a lot better team on paper, challenging at that point.
Yeah, and if I wasn't so pleased that we have got it and we are going and I'm planning to go, I would be on your wavelength, Jimmy. I'd love it to be a derby. I really would. Obviously, I'm a bit more blinded now by I'm going.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And like I say, it's a credit to where you've come, credit to where you've come from, credit to where you are. And you know, Leeds are always going to be one of them teams that are going to be in the mix for that. Saints as well. Obviously, we're going to have already done it. What they're going to do after this, you know, after you've got Hull versus Saints, where are you going to go next?
Salford, Huddersfield, definitely big travelling fans.
Caswakey.
Yeah, Caswakey. But then again, they'll
Bradford Fev.
They'll end up in the same boat, though, won't they? Like, you know, do they want to lose in Vegas?
They're not a real derby.
Well, they're not. What I did want to say is one thing that we might do. One thing that we might do, because we've not discussed it yet, but I think it would be a good idea, and we can maybe just have a quick vote on it now.
Yes.
Okay, so we will be doing a quick, half hour, 45 minutes or so special episode to basically give people an understanding of Vegas, what not to do, what to do, because Dean's been about 12 times. I've only been the once.
11.
But
I'll get lost.
But like we did a shed load of research before we went. We learnt a lot just from one trip. You've learnt a lot from 2 trips. There's a load of people that have done a load of stuff in the paper that I don't trust people read anymore because it is crap. But I think it would be worthwhile people watching, because there's so many things you can get wrong in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Even from just booking your hotel. You might think, oh, the Strat looks cheap, I'll book that. And then you realise that the strip's about 12 miles long. And you're like, oh, crap. And then your taxis are really expensive. And your juice buses only come once every hour. And if they're not full, then you'd be surprised. So there's a lot to think about. We'll do a quick episode on that.
We'll vote on it.
We'll vote on it. Well, I said yes. Craig said yes. So
I was hoping you was going to
go rogue.
No. No. And then if we get Hair to go no as well.
I need to be convinced, so I've all yes.
There we go. That's 3 yeses.
There we go, then.
So we will do an episode.
Votes count as double.
E-drum count as a vote.
Cheers, Sam and Cal. I'll get Lauren on speed dial because she's giving me all my information. So,
right, shall we move on?
Predictions. Let's wrap this up.
This is it. My time to shine.
Oh, do you know what was really interesting about last week?
As I was saying.
As he says, wrap this up, and he carries on with something yet.
Do you know we said it was a real tough week to decide? And then there was some scores and expect. Every home team won last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't realise that.
Yeah, just checking the math, but I know I'm right.
Yeah. Wow. Well.
Go on then, Craig.
Are you ready?
I've thrown him now, haven't I?
No, he's just
Dean,
lost
you got
his-
6 out of 6. Well, you would have done.
I would have done if I'd put the Saints one on.
First game of the week at Lee Sports Village. Lee versus your good selves. I've got Lee by 10.
I've got Lee by 16.
Lee by 14.
Got Lee by 10.
I've totally lost what I was writing there. Josh, what did you have? 16. Dean had 14.
Yep.
And Jimmy had 10. And Susan's got Lee by 12. On to Friday night. The big one for us guys is away to Warrington. Not Wilderspool. Neil said Wilderspool then. Halliwell Jones.
Oh, what a ground.
Yeah. You know what I'm like with these sort of big fixtures. I and I are and I go heart and head. But I actually think this week we'll have too much for them, and I've gone Rovers by 8.
I've gone Rovers by 14.
Rovers by 16.
I've gone Rovers by 13.
Oh, love it. And Susan's got Rovers by 10. So we're all within a 8-point margin of each other with that one. Huddersfield and St Helens also on the Friday night over at the John Smiths. I've got Saints by 26.
I've got Saints by 30.
Saints by 18.
Wow. I've got Saints by 14.
And Susan has Saints by 12.
I just feel like Huddersfield have had a noticeable step up in the last couple of games.
With the intimidation of their home crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what it is. Yeah, like
the reason I backed so big, I could see what happened on Saturday being an absolute motivation killer for them, because they did so well and played so hard against us for that period, and then the way they was blown away.
Sounds patronising, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but it's absolutely right.
And then you've got,
just dancing out special by Saints.
But they're absolutely buoyed up partly from the result they had this week. That's why I've done it anyways. But yeah,
fair enough. One of us will be wrong.
Catalans did.
Probably
of course they did. Yeah. Over at the Jungle, Castleford versus Leeds. I struggled with this one. I don't know. I think Weldon Road, the Jungle, it's a tough place. Leeds are up and down. Eventually, I've gone for Leeds by 6.
Leeds by 12.
Leeds by 20.
Leeds by 16.
I can't agree with Craig that Leeds are up and down. I think
Leeds are on the up.
I think
What
Leeds
did you
are
say,
well on
Jimmy?
the up.
16.
16.
And Susan's got Leeds by 8. Over in the south of France, Wigan travel over there. Still think they'll have too much even with the travelling. Wigan by 14.
Wigan by 13.
Wigan by 8.
I thought he was going to say 30 then.
I nearly did that as well, yeah.
Wigan by 20.
And Susan has Wigan by 14. Final tie of the round, Wakefield versus Salford over at the DIY Kitchens. I think it's called now, is that right?
Yeah, you called it the Solicitors one last.
Yeah,
last
I did,
week,
didn't
They
I?
change it every single season, don't they? So
Yeah,
Bellevue.
Yeah, with the flats. Can't see Salford getting anything out of this. Wakefield by 26.
Wakefield by 34.
36. Wakey.
46.
Ooh, he's gone big.
I've gone massive on
And
this one.
Susan's got 36 by Wakefield.
All done.
Anyone back to different team? We all on the same wavelength?
I think we are.
Yeah, we're all on the same wavelength.
Comes down to points again, doesn't it?
Yep.
Points mate prizes.
All right.
Or lack of points mate forfeits. Don't they, Jimmy?
It's so
As
close.
it stands
It
at the
is
minute,
close, to be fair.
Susan's picking a forfeit for Jimmy. So,
As it stands. But
although
what
I
are we,
don't think
11
she
rounds
should
in?
count, and it should be Dean's picking a forfeit for Jimmy.
Now, you said the other week when you two had been whispering and planning
Conniving.
together that you can easily pass it on. So
Oh no, he's doing it.
Can I?
I would.
I'd love to do it. Because I know what our forfeit.
we need to change it.
I think that's just about done. I just want to say again, just a thanks to everyone that listened last week that actually sent comments, because we had a noticeable increase in comments this week, and they are all fun to read. We don't necessarily respond to them all on here because some of them you probably not get the response you want from us, but they are all.
I'm not allowed access to the comments.
Just go on YouTube.
Neither am I.
No, I meant to write.
Oh, you can do if you want. If you want to send something, I'll send it.
Yeah, you'll send it. But then if I send it to
Come
you
on,
and you
wrap
go,
up.
then
Now what?
Jimmy, I like the point you're making because I like it when people comment. I like it when people stop us. We've had more people stop me at Rovers and talk to me now and feedback or just to say hello. It's just nice. It's nice when people take the effort and put it in, because we do this because we love rugby. We love talking about rugby as mates. And if you enjoy it as well and people want to drop us the like, the subscribe, listen to us on Patreon or any of them stuff, we just appreciate it all.
I did have one listener that is known to us, a friend, Mr. Macklin, suggest the other day that we do merch. He's like, I'd walk around in a bragging rights hoodie.
We don't do them in his size.
Well, hold on. We're not going to make one for Craig then?
Macklin's probably slimmer than me now.
Yeah, I'd say he is, but I don't know. Is he taller than you?
Yeah.
Join us next week for the people you've never met and how tall they are.
Right. Thanks again for Tribal for sending us a picture for us to put behind ourselves, and for Comscaf for being our sponsor. But that's it from me. So see you bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.